under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll call the meeting to order. And can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor McNulty Ryan.
Present.
Executive Assistant Maggie Alex.
Present.
Trustee Files. Present. Trustee Jones.
Present.
Trustee McGivern.
Present.
Trustee Vieira, absent. Trustee Toyota.
Present.
Trustee Carwell.
Present.
And Attorney Legard, present.
Nice meeting.
Okay, I think we're going to do our presentation first before we get into the rest of the business. Could I have a motion to excuse the absentee?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Oh, second. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then it's carried. You're on, Chuck.
The factory town.
Yes. First day back from vacation.
I gotta get bigger clips, sorry. Oh, you did that pretty good, you know, right where I put it.
Eyeballed it.
Not your first rodeo.
So I get repeater all the time, eyeball thing. All right, so factory town we brought in front of the board previously. This is kind of just a catch up of going through the rest of the regulatory process and working through some of the other moving parts of the property. There's no shortage of moving parts to this property. So we just had long discussions with FEMA, with regulatory floodway boundaries, and worked through really what we could work for development when it comes to the moving parts of the floodways and lifting the property out of the floodplain, which is an important part for us when it comes to the long-term investment on the property. We've also worked with DEC. We have a permit package in for mitigation for the bald eagle's nest, and working to make sure that we don't interrupt the bald eagle's activities there, or the absence of activities, which is ultimately what we found to date. We believe it's a secondary nest, and we're just waiting on Region 4 to respond to us with DEC and work through a number of the other items that they may need to process that permit. We've also done a phase 2 archaeological study. We went through a phase 1, phase 1A, and now we're at a phase 2. The phase 1 kind of showed that there was a large history with tribes meeting at the tip of the island, or the tip of the peninsula, I should say. That led us into a phase 1A, and then led us into a phase 2. The phase 2, we ended up working with our archaeological firm that created a 50 by 50 dig. We did an extensive test pit dig, and they found some avoidance areas. They've mapped those out. We've submitted that to SHPO. We're also working on an avoidance plan for SHPO to kind of discuss what our findings were, how the development's going to avoid those impacted areas that ultimately have history to them. And we're just going to be waiting on response from SHPO on that. And we've also continued conversations with the DEC Brownfield program. This limit right here of the property, a little irregular, was part of the original Ford manufacturing piece and the deed restriction that was put on the site for an industrial use. We're obviously here in front of the village proposing a mixed or residential multi-family complex. So what we're looking at is making a change of use that would be done depending on how our soil testings go, by maybe adding an extra level of remediation from what we had originally done. So working through a lot of the process, I think you can hear there's 1/3 of the property is kind of working with the Brownfield program at DEC, another third of the property is working with Region 4 and the Eagles folks and the biologists, and we're just about making it through with the other third of the property, which had some archaeological restraints that we're going to be able to build around. And the only piece of the property that didn't have anything going on with it was the part that we were proposing for amenities across the bike trail. So we also made it through New York State DEC also for wetlands. We've mapped the wetlands. We've provided that to them. We received a sign off because we had provided a no impact to the wetlands that are existing there. So we are keeping in most of the vegetation and wetland vegetation there and some of the habitat as well. So this property will have a little bit different of a look than Starbuck Island, where we're maintaining some of the tree foliage and some of the nature that's there, and maybe providing some walkways throughout for our residents to kind of enjoy that. Trying to think here. You know, we've been working with the TDE, CHA. We've been progressing preliminary designs with water, sewer, stormwater, conceptual grading, number of different items. We've been addressing Joe Romano's comments. There hasn't been any, you know, major comments that aren't addressable, so I think we're moving pretty well there. And I guess the only major things that we've done to the plan was, I believe the last time I was here, we were in front of the board with a unit count of about 309 units, with, as I explained then, you know, that was the maximum output of what this property could really provide for our layout. As I expressed last time as well, working through with a lot of the regulatory agencies, I had a feeling that that unit count was going to scale down, and it has. So what you see here today is a scale down to 291 units. Working with the grading plan and obviously what Future brought from the archaeological study, we have reduced a 10-unit building along the river here. So what you see is 23 and 24. Used to be 3 buildings, now it's 2. We also eliminated a 4th building over here at one time, which kind of just worked with the constraints of topo, with grading the topography to make sure that we weren't impeding on the eagle's nest and some of those regulatory radius boundaries. And we also, because of the avoidance area, we had skinnied up the truck turnaround. It was really a cul-de-sac. We were going to make it aesthetically pleasing, but it was a truck turnaround for the fire department. We maintained still a 40-foot turn radius to make sure that they still had that accessibility around that. So there wasn't a hammerhead or a dead end for them to come to, and then also for us, for plowing, we still had some type of transversible room. So, and obviously the clubhouse and the pool was also shifted page north, which would be west, cardinally. And that was also because of some of the avoidance area as well with some of the archaeological findings. So not a ton of major changes. Mostly the changes were, if anything, development mitigation. There were reductions to what we had originally proposed. And we really just wanted to catch the village up on where we were at, what conversations were had, and how the process is going.
And as part of the submission that was brought to the village and CHA last week was the environmental assessment report. And so that just has the project description and seeker processes and a lot of technical appendices. So it's a big read, but yeah, we're open to all comments for that too. So
I didn't read it.
I didn't read it either.
It was 700 pages.
Does anyone have any questions for? I think this is good. This is a huge project, so I think it's good every once in a while. Is like there's so many moving parts to have them come in and keep us updated, and Joe Romano's on everything too with Clough Harbor. So
Joe Romano did read that entire report.
He did.
That's what we pay him for.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? I really appreciate you guys coming in and doing this, and we're probably gonna have a couple more of these along the way too, I would guess. So.
Yeah, we're hoping for, you know, we'll plan on being back in front of the board, once we get responses back from SHPO, you know, as we progress that, there's, you know, that's kind of, what we're saying is our largest holdup right now on being able to make a seeker determination, because it's ultimately waiting for a regulatory agency to respond. DEC is just a permit avenue, so we're waiting. That would be the next meeting would maybe be a SHPO update, then that will progress the rest of the preliminary design and hopefully close up seeker. And then where we'd be after that is just kind of obtaining the rest of the permits and working with those agencies to move through the rest of it, and also see what the village's opinions are on whether or not it's a project that they feel is great for their community, but
I think
we
it's
believe it
ironic
is.
that the only thing you don't have a problem with is the one thing you're not building anything on.
Yeah, yeah. This is, I argue that this has more moving parts than Starbucks, just not pumping 40,000 gallons of oil out of the ground, but it still has a lot of moving parts.
Well, we're excited, and we're excited that something's gonna be done on all the projects that were here tonight, so we're moving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I just have one question. Like you're doing with the Eagles Nest and DEC, and you're moving further away, so you're doing the same thing as far as the archaeological finds, that you're moving further away from the finds as well?
Yes, sir. So originally, this clubhouse was more over in this area.
Right, yeah.
Right, and this road section had a different radii to it.
Mhm.
And this cul-de-sac was also more like ovular than it is circular now. And you can see these, probably vaguely, these dotted lines here. And this ultimately is the avoidance area. So this shape towards the river is an avoidance area, and this shape here towards the river is an avoidance area.
So you're
And
just
that's
leaving it the way?
leaving it natural, the way it is, not disturbing it, not even disturbing surface on it. We'll make sure our topography is designed to tie into that original grade, you know, plus or minus 2 or 3 feet back, to ensure that, you know, we'll orange snow fence off that area during construction, make sure it's not touched, and it's ultimately will become a protected area. So, as same as with the 330-degree radius around the bald eagle's nest.
And once you're all done, will people be able to even get over their access, or are you blocking that off altogether?
So that's one thing that we're waiting on. So we right now have just kind of shown our findings to SHPO. We're working on an avoidance plan. One of the some of the things that go into the avoidance plan is whether we buffer that space to not be touched by foliage. Do we buffer it with fencing? We're looking into that, and we're gonna end up working with our archaeological firm on how to provide that plan to SHPO, which
Okay.
is the avoidance plan on making sure that's not disturbed.
What is it? What's over there?
So they found like rocks that could have been used for like fire starting. They found some like arrowheads and different things. So they found evidence that ultimately supported like the historical claims that were there. And we're just going to wait from SHPO to see if there's any extra measures we need in that confines to the findings there. But the rest of the property was free and clear. They even did testing down in other isolated areas. But when SHPO looks at things when it comes to disturbances, we usually purchase like what's called a decade package. So they look back in historical aerial photography on when the earth was originally disturbed. And ultimately, the only area that wasn't disturbed during Ford, which would have predated any type of archaeological things that would have been found, was up here, right? So we did a very comprehensive overview of the tip, and we found that these should be the avoidance areas just on that side. No findings were made on the other side.
You good? Thanks again. We really appreciate it. It's a good boy, he's not stealing my phone. Next on our agenda is public forum. I have Tom Teresi down. Tom, what you have down as your issue is not on our agenda, but
Okay.
if you're brief, go ahead.
Tom Teresi, 103 Hudson Avenue, Green Island. It's a question which is of interest to me. You may find it interesting. I am a teetotaler, and when I go to a restaurant and get my tea, I have to dump the tea bag in the water. They always sink, and they always distribute the tea throughout the cup. At home, when I make tea, and I do it quite frequently, several times a day, my tea bag does not go into the water, it floats. And from the tea bag comes all kinds of bubbles. And that never happens in restaurants. And I'm just wondering, I know your water department, which you're quite proud of, is doing a good job and probably making the water according to the formulation that's required. But is there a possibility that it's just a little bit different than other communities, the way they do their water? because I know my tea bags are telling me a message. I don't know what the message is, the tea is still good, but I find it interesting, and I thought I would just share that with you.
Well, my first blush with it would be, it's a difference in the way you heat your water at home than how they heat it in the restaurants. Because it sounds like there's aeration in your water from heating it, but that's just an observation. That would be my only thing.
Could be.
Actually,
A lot of times at restaurants, there are often water filters attached to where they retrieve their hot water from. Usually comes out of a coffee machine or some type of satellite machine, and 9 times out of 10, there's a huge cartridge water filter on that. That could be, maybe some.
Maybe so.
Because some of the minerals have been removed.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our regular meeting on January 17th, 2023. Everyone has a copy. Does anyone have any corrections? If not, could I have a motion to approve the minutes from January 17th?
Motion to accept.
Make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next on the agenda is an appointment. We're going to ask that Anthony Ferrandino be appointed as our village treasurer. Everybody's on the board has received a copy of his resume. As you all know, Jack McNulty semi-retired a while ago, and he's pretty much retired, and Michelle has been doing the bulwark there for quite some time now, so it's time that we get on board, and Mag's been going all over the place and inquiring, and we got an inquiry from Anthony, so I'll let you.
Yeah, sure. So we've been on this like 18th month search since Jack had declared his interest in retiring, and I happened to call Albany County for a work-related issue, and I had to reach out to Anthony. So I had the pleasure of working with Anthony during my tenure, short term, at the Albany County Real Property Office. Anthony comes to us from Albany County. He's a tax operations manager, and in my short term there, I noticed quickly his enthusiasm, his work ethic, his attention to detail. So when I kind of threw out the idea, I was hopeful, but wasn't sure where it was going to go. So when Anthony reached out to me with interest, I was pleasantly surprised. So I think he will be a great addition to our team. I'm looking forward to working with him, introducing him to all of you, and I think he'll be a great fit.
And he lives right in Waterville East, so if we have a snow day, he has to walk. He doesn't even have to drive, so he can get here. I don't know if anyone on the board has any questions about anything.
Pretty detailed information that we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked him, the Hudson Valley thing with 3.95. I said, what happened with that? And he did explain it to me, so. Well, if there are no other questions, may I have a motion to appoint Anthony as our village treasurer?
Second.
I didn't hear the motion.
Oh.
Oh, Chris.
Chris, you gotta speak up a little.
Sorry.
I heard you.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Anthony, stand up and let everybody know who you are. You want to say anything?
I'm excited to, March 10th, I should start down here. I'm very excited. Again, I gotta get to know more people, but it's gonna be a good thing. Head in the office, looking around, have some updating I wanna do. But,
Good.
And he hasn't run away yet.
Yeah.
And it's scared
I'm not a
away,
quitter,
so.
This updating won't cost a lot of money, will it?
No?
All right.
No, I think he wants to do a lot of shredding because we have a lot of unnecessary stuff
A
that's
lot
in
of
there.
paper.
To
Thank
give
you
him-
again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next on the agenda is communications. We have a letter from Jerry Legault, who's resigning as our crossing guard. Ann, do you want to read that?
Dear Mayor McNulty, Ryan, and Miss Alex, I am writing to resign my position as crossing guard effective Friday, February 17th, 2023. I would like to thank the village and the school for allowing me to serve the students and families of Green Island for the past several years in my position. Sincerely, Gerald Legault.
Ordered, filed. Jerry did a good job for us up there, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe that cold snap that we had might have moved him a little more to wanting to do that, but we put in our newsletter, if anyone knows of anyone who would be interested in that job, you know, let us know. But could we have a motion to accept Jerry's resignation?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. We also have a letter from Tom Mullins.
The letter is addressed to Acting Chief Bill Rice, and it reads, as a longtime resident of Green Island, I would like to commend you and the men and women of the Green Island Police Department for the culture of caring that has been promoted in the Green Island Police Department. In all of my interactions with the police department, I personally have been treated with the highest degree of respect and professionalism by your officers, and I know I speak for others in our community when I say that a person's dignity is first and foremost as your officers deal with the public in various matters. I have watched as your officers deal with various situations using diffusing techniques rather than confrontation and dealing with the public. This positive approach in policing helps to build trust between the community and the police. I wish you and your department nothing but the best in continuing to serve and protect our residents and keep our safety a priority. Thank you and your department for their service to our community. Sincerely, Thomas Mullins, resident.
Ordered, filed. You know, it's very heartening for me when you have a resident that writes a letter like this, and if you remember a couple of months ago, we had another fellow from out of town who was treated very well, and Officer Fisher went above and beyond on that. So when you look at the newspapers and the news and you see all the bad things that are happening with police departments all over the country, it's really nice that people take the time to
Acknowledge.
give our guys a little pat on the back, so thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of claims. Everyone has a copy. Does anyone have any questions? If not, could I have a motion to pay the bills?
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of the police activity report for the month of January 2023. Everyone has a copy. Could I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of the fire department report for the month of January 2023. Everyone has a copy. Could I have a motion to accept?
Make the motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of the monthly report by the treasurer. Everyone has a copy. Does anyone have any questions? Michelle can answer them, and next month we might put Anthony on the spot. If not, could I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of the monthly report of the Parking Violations Bureau. We only had one ticket last month, so.
Slow month.
Could I have a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of adjustments to the water and sewer billing. They're just routine.
All routine.
Could I have a motion to make the adjustments?
Make the motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of authorizing the mayor to execute the renewal of memorandum of understanding for 2023 for the following entities. This is a yearly renewal, and it would be with the Green Island Power Authority, the City of Cohoes, the City of Troy, the City of Waterville, the Green Island Union Free School District Number 1, and the American Legion Post 927. Does anyone have any questions? If not, could I have a motion to do the renewal of the MOUs?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then it's carried. Next is consideration of the renewal of the agreement with Everbridge for mass notification alerts for 2023. I don't know, Mag, if you want to say anything on this? Or?
Sure, for this, we're asking for a 3-year contract. At the rate that we're currently paying, our other option would be a 1-year renewal, but there would be an increase in the rate. So if we do a 3-year renewal, we can lock in at the rate that we're currently paying.
And I don't think we ever want to not do this because I think it works out very well, especially when we have emergencies, but for all kinds of notifications, but especially emergencies. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? If not, could I have a motion that we do a 3-year renewal with Everbridge?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of authorizing the village board to declare their intent to act as lead agency for the proposed development of the project for 25 Tibbetts Avenue / 147 Cannon Street. We're gonna finally come up with just one address for it, but so everybody, it's the Friedman property, just so everybody understands. You wanna comment, Meg?
Yes, by declaring our intent to act as lead agency, this will allow us to start the coordinated environmental review. So that's what we're asking the board to do now, so that we can now notify any interested agencies, and take the next step forward.
Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. I put in 2 different addresses, and the first one, 25 Tibbetts, came up the end of Cannon and Tibbetts.
Yes.
Then I put in 147 Cannon Street, it came up behind the bowling alley, and they're not even close.
There is a Cannon Street down there.
So it's 147
Yeah,
Cannon Street.
that's
so-
why we want it to be the Tibbetts Avenue
Yeah, so-
thing, because it's not as confusing.
Friedman used 25 Tibbetts as their mailing address.
Exactly.
The official address, according to the assessment records, is 147 Cannon Street. And I believe all their entry and exits will be on Cannon Street, and now that we have the hydro plant access road gonna be on Cannon Street, we'd like some continuity on Cannon Street. I'm not sure why it's coming up with that on Google, but.
I'm looking, exactly, I was looking for something that was like right around the corner, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden I put it in, and it came up behind the bowling alley.
I think there is a way to repin those, like to redrop the location pin on those.
All right.
Cannon Street down there is only this long, so
Yeah.
I mean, I
Oh,
don't know how they come
that's
up with
what I'm saying, that's why I was
147.
surprised to see
Right.
that be there, I'm going.
That would be
oh,
concerning for tractor trailer traffic. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely should look into that.
It's a long way. Okay,
Does
that's all the
911
question I
have
had.
both addresses, or what would come in? Under that.
Well, once it's occupied again, we will have to confirm with them once we agree. They may have, that's a good question, I don't know the answer to that, but I will
The-
certainly ask them.
Tibbetts Avenue address.
I'm
there's
gonna
no
guess they
entrance.
have the
Yeah.
Cannon Street address.
Right, yeah.
But I will
Because
double check on that.
the address for the hydro plant is changing too with the new entrance that's
Right.
going in there,
Right,
so.
yes, yep.
Okay, so, can I have a motion to, I had to figure out where we were here, to declare our intent to act as lead agency for the proposed project?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Next is consideration of the monthly recap submitted by the GIPA and DPW crews. Everyone has a copy. They've been pretty busy. You got 2 months worth of stuff there this month, I think, so. Could I have a motion to accept the recap?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried. Do you have any other business? Just want to let everybody know that Chief Parker has been released by the doctors. He's been out on medical leave for a couple years now, but he's been cleared, so he's coming back. And but the other good thing is Officer Rice has agreed to stay on as our assistant chief, and he's done one hell of a job for 2 years here. So that's all good. Does anyone on the board have anything for board forum? If not, our next meeting is back to Mondays again, Monday, March 20th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you, everybody.